everybody for joining. I'll just give some brief remarks, and then Representative New and Representatives Garofalo are here with me as well, and we'll let them chime in if they like, and then we'll take some questions. So first of all, again, thanks for joining us. Obviously good news for Minnesota today with the forecast getting significantly better. Really, I think who needs to be applauded for that are Minnesotans who have worked so hard to find ways of working through this pandemic and still maintaining some level of normalcy in their businesses and in their jobs. So we certainly appreciate the hard work that they have done. The surplus that we have in the current biennium obviously belongs to Minnesotans, and the credit for that belongs to Minnesotans. I also think it probably points out that the numbers were somewhat flawed in the previous forecast, although I don't fault anyone for that because it was very difficult to try to predict how our revenues were going to come in such a weird time. So I think it's good news. I think our caucus has kind of taken the lead, and we're at the forefront of proposing some relief to Minnesota businesses during this economic downturn. Both the first time that the governor shut businesses down and now the second time. Representative Dave Baker has been working hard with leaders from the other caucuses to put together a package that we think will help those businesses get through this tough time and weather this storm. So we're optimistic that we can get that passed fairly quickly. I think there are still some outstanding points that we need to work on, but I think folks are coming together, so we're optimistic about that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative New.
Thank you, Leader Daudt. I would just say, this to echo Kurt's comments, this really is good news. And as we've been discussing, we've been working on a relief package. I've been working with that working group to make that happen. And hopefully this makes the path to getting that done just a little bit easier. Our small businesses are really hurting right now, and we need to get that relief package done. So, and I'll turn the time over to Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Leader Daudt, and thank you, Deputy Leader New. First of all, can I just get a wave that you guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So obviously really good news today, really good news, but I would caution Minnesotans to remember that arsonists make very bad firefighters. And so we're trying to put out these fires that are damaging small business. Let's listen to small business owners, and let's ignore those who want to tell small businesses what to do. That's really the important thing here, is that we're going to get out and help our small businesses. Big businesses have benefited from these government restrictions. They don't need our assistance right now. It's the small businesses, Main Street businesses, family-owned businesses that need our help. And I'm confident that Representative Baker, working with Representative New, Representative Daudt, and members of the DFL as well, can put together a really good package of that fund. Going forward, I think it's important that we recognize that Minnesota, if we make some smart decisions here in the next couple of weeks and months, restore our small businesses, that the Minnesota economy is set to boom in 2021. That if you see the rapid deployment of vaccines, as well as this unbridled enthusiasm and confidence that Minnesotans want to have to get out, get the vaccines deployed, the 2020 can be a year of amazing opportunities. There's really no need to be taking any more money out of the private sector and putting it into government. Let's let the economy return to growth. That'll accomplish some good things. One thing we do need to be aware of is to recognize that with the commercial property tax markets, commercial property tax valuations in decline and less usage, our current property tax system in Minnesota is going to will mean that burden is going to shift on the residential ratepayers. We should stop that in 2021. We should use some of the budget reserve to provide temporary relief to alleviate that property tax burden. That if we take no action, property taxes will shift from commercial taxpayers to residential taxpayers. That needs to stop. And I think a person that we can be looking to for good advice in this, as we work with Senate Republicans, as we work with Democrats, is let's rely on the expertise of Senator Tom Bach, who is uniquely positioned with his experience to offer some good advice on both sides of the aisle. And I would hope that our Senate colleagues, I know Senator Gazelka has already done that, I would hope that Senator Kent governor's office, majority party DFL in the House, listen to his expertise.
All right. Do we have some questions?
Yep. But that will
Bill Werner.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kurt.
I was just going to go through them. Andrew, sorry.
Okay. Bill, we'll just go in the order in the chat. Bill Werner, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. We asked the Democrats about tax increases, and we know what your stance on that is. And they said that there are some folks in this economy who are doing very well because of the switch in consumer spending patterns as are forced by the pandemic, and therefore saying just across the board, no tax increases is simply going to benefit folks who are already in good shape and not have money available to help folks who really need the help. How do you respond to that?
You know, I think that's a statement that probably has its roots in political talking points and in dividing people. This is not, you know, it's naive and ignorant for us to say that anybody's doing really well during this pandemic. Are there people who haven't been hurt by this? Certainly there are, but there are others who have been hurt incredibly bad, and there are businesses that just frankly won't make it through this. I think the hospitality industry has said that, you know, potentially as much as 40 or 50% of restaurants will not make it out the other end of this pandemic. Movie theaters. I mean, there's just so many industries that are going to be hit really hard by this. So, you know, to try to even use words like that, that's pretty shameful to try to pit one group of people in this pandemic against another group of people, and to try to do that for political gain, I think is irresponsible. Let's together just, you know, gather around this problem, figure out who needs the help, and try to figure out how to help them. You know, pitting one group of people against another is really a bad political strategy, and really, I think, lacks the kind of leadership that's necessary right now during this pandemic. So I hope that they'll stop using that talking point and start actually trying to help people.
Anyone else on that one? Otherwise,
Ann, did you want to chime in on this one?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, next up, we've got Theo Keith.
Hey, so you guys put out your economic relief proposal framework last week. The governor put out his on the same day. It seemed pretty promising that something would happen soon. And now a week's gone by and we haven't heard anything else. And just now, House Democrats said the Senate GOP hasn't engaged with them yet on this. So is this slipping through everybody's fingers? It seems a lot less optimistic than it was a week ago.
Well, you know, I think we're still optimistic. I think all along the Senate Republicans have been saying, let's wait and see what the forecast says before we proceed too far, just simply because we needed to know what sort of resources we had available to help Minnesota businesses. So they are certainly taking a cautious approach. We obviously rolled our package out early, but we had been working on it probably earlier than anybody else. As I said earlier, we had taken the forefront and the lead, and really understanding that Minnesota businesses were hurting and we're going to need some help in the second round of shutdown. And we knew how important that was, and wanted to proceed fairly quickly. I don't want to fault anybody else, you know, for having a slower reaction and a more thoughtful reaction. To wait and see what the numbers were, but we knew this was going to be necessary. I'll also say that the legislative leaders received a call from the governor's office and from MMB probably almost 2 weeks ago now, indicating that the fiscal situation for the state has changed significantly, and that they would do an earlier forecast, and it would reflect that there was enough of a change in the current biennium that we would not need to access the reserves in this biennium. So that told us right away that things had improved pretty significantly. So we were going off of that information and knew that we probably didn't need to wait. But I'm certain that the Senate GOP understands the importance of helping our Minnesota businesses, you know, weather this storm and make it through to the other side. The most important thing that we can do is make sure that when this pandemic is over, and when the vaccine is distributed, and the pandemic and the concern over the pandemic has gone away, and we're returning back to normal, that there are businesses and there are jobs available for people on the other end of this, and some of them are going to need some life support to get to get through this. So that's what we're committed to, and I'm sure that the others will be there with us.
Leader Daudt, if I can jump in on this as well. I have been working with this working group, and as Leader Daudt just talked about, this division not being helpful. This narrative that the Senate GOP is not engaged, I'm not real understanding of why that narrative is out there, other than to sow division as some sort of negotiating tactic, which I really don't understand. We've been engaged with the Senate GOP in these conversations the entire time. So that narrative is just not true. They actually are actively engaged every day in different conversations. What's actually more concerning to us is, the governor put out a plan, but he has actually not been engaged in the conversations with us. He has not, he's been engaged with the House DFL. He's not been engaged at all with the House Republicans or Senate Republicans. I think we all were hopeful and appreciated the governor's tone when he proposed his package, that he was really looking for a bipartisan solution. And we're hoping we still see that from the governor, but to this point, we have not.
Peter Callahan, did that cover your question, or did you want to jump in?
It almost did. Can you tell us who you're working with in the Senate Republican caucus, specifically? What senators?
I know that Senator Pratt is working on some of this. And I'm not sure if I know, they've divided up the work, and it's on a spreadsheet that we have. I just don't have that spreadsheet right in front of me. So each part of the bill is divided up to the committee chairs in those specific areas. I'm not sure if Pat or Ann has that information right in front of them. I don't have it right in front of me, but I know Senator Pratt has part of it, and I forget who has the other parts. But and I know we have had conversations with those senators, and those conversations have been ongoing.
Leader Daudt, you're exactly correct. It's Senator Pratt leads the initiative over in the Senate. And as you mentioned, we put forward a proposal for $400 million in small business assistance. As soon as we can just get other people to recognize that and approve that, we can move forward on helping small businesses. Unfortunately, the omnibus Christmas tree approach is starting now, where we're seeing other interest groups trying to attach things to small business relief. If we can just get everyone in the legislature focused on giving that $400 million to small businesses, let other people debate other things in individual bills separate from that. But let's not hold up assistance for our small businesses for the wish lists of others.
All right, Mary LaHammer, and then Tom Hauser had his hand up. We'll go to him next.
Yeah, I have a question actually quickly for all three, based on Garofalo said earlier about the economy set to boom in 2021 with the release of the vaccine. I've asked questions before about modeling behavior and wearing masks. I want to know if the three lawmakers on the call all plan to get the vaccine and will encourage others to do so.
There's probably varying degrees of people's comfort level with it. I am very, very confident. Everything I've heard about the vaccine is certainly positive and indicates that it will be successful. I would get it on day one. However, I'm certainly willing to forego that, because there are people who are at much, much higher risk who should be taking it sooner than I. So although we are a pretty essential, the legislature's duty is pretty essential. And frankly, if it were to help us get back to the Capitol and get face-to-face and in-person hearings, I think those things are really important. So I would very strongly recommend that we give it to anybody in the legislature who does feel that they are high risk, or that they have family members at home who are high risk, which I don't consider myself in that bucket. But I would take it myself. I would take it right away. But I know that I shouldn't be taking it right away. I should leave it for people who are at a higher risk, and I'll let the others answer as well.
Thank you.
Ann or Pat?
That was well said. I'm not sure there's anything to add.
Yeah, Mary, I had COVID in October, so my primary concern is just making sure I don't take someone else's vaccine. But the moment that it's available publicly or to the legislature, absolutely. The sooner the better.
Yeah.
All right, Tom Hauser.
Yeah, Representative Daudt, I don't know if you listened to the governor a short time ago, but he strongly hinted that he will continue the shutdown of bars, restaurants, and health clubs past December 18th. You have said in the past that the governor picks winners and losers. in these economic shutdowns. Do you still believe that? And do you think that this shutdown as it stands now should not be extended and maybe even shortened?
Well, there's a couple of things I'd like to say to that. Number one, I want to thank the governor for doing what I think he thinks is right, and for doing what I think he thinks will keep Minnesotans safe. But I want to be critical of him at the same time, in that I think he has really missed an opportunity to work with the legislature and to include us in the process. I'll point out for you, not that I think I need to, because I think you can see it as well, but there are no legislative hearings going on COVID. We're not talking about distribution of the vaccine, or we haven't even started hearings on the aid package yet. We're having behind the scenes conversations, but with the impacts of businesses, the impacts on workers, those sorts of things, our education system. There's so many things that we could be having hearings on so that we can be engaged. But I do fault the governor a little bit in that he has failed to engage with the legislature. And I think it's incumbent on him to include us and show some leadership. The pandemic is not a partisan issue, and I think it's an opportunity for us all to work together. I also think that as part of our aid package proposal, we talked about opening up a couple of different segments, and there probably are others. I think we should find ways to open these businesses safely. That's the key. But the two that I would mention, health clubs, we think that health clubs are an essential thing that help Minnesotans stay safe. And we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to get into a health club and exercise. And I think health clubs can figure out how to keep people safe and keep people distance. Movie theaters are another one that just kind of baffles me. The folks involved with the movie theaters are telling us that there hasn't been a single documented case of COVID transmission in a movie theater in Minnesota or in the entire country, but yet Governor Walz has closed movie theaters in the state of Minnesota. A movie theater is a place where you sit quietly in one seat. You don't move, you don't exercise, you don't breathe heavily. You can wear a mask. You can sit with your loved ones from your own household, and they can structure that so that you sit 20 feet apart from other people. So, I think we're causing harm to industries without data to back it up unnecessarily. And I think what the governor should look at, and if I were to give him some advice, I would say, let's try to figure out how to get businesses open safely. Let's not try to figure out how to get businesses closed. Let's put our effort into trying to figure out how to get our businesses open and do that safely. Because I think with the right steps, I think we can get these businesses open safely. And that's the best thing for them, frankly. We have to give them less aid and less money to help them through this storm if they can actually conduct some business on their own. And I think that's the most important thing right now.
As a follow-up, in any package that the legislature might consider, would you pursue maybe as making part of the deal with the governor, reopening health clubs and movie theaters and maybe some others?
I want the governor to do the right thing, and I'm not about to start making ultimatums of we'll give you this if you give us that. I think I also don't like the idea that House Democrats are saying to Senate Republicans, hey, you have to come with a fully vetted proposal and put that on the table. I'm a little old fashioned. I think that legislators and the governor could sit around a table and say, okay, this is what's going on in our state. Who's being hurt and how are they being hurt? And let's together figure out how to help those people. I think we could show some leadership and really working together to figure this stuff out. I'm not about to put an ultimatum on the governor to say, we won't give businesses relief or give money to extend unemployment benefits or whatever unless you open up health clubs and movie theaters. What we'd like to do is we'd like to be at the table with the governor reviewing the data and saying, hey, you know what, movie theaters are telling us there hasn't been a single documented case of transmission of COVID in a movie theater in the entire country. Why is it that movie theaters have to be closed? And instead of saying let's close movie theaters, let's ask the question, how do we keep movie theaters open? Or how do we keep health clubs open? Or how do we keep restaurants open? And what I mean by that is what measures could we put in place that would make it safe to be in a restaurant and allow that business to be open? And I think that's what's important. In the meantime, while businesses are closed, while restaurants are closed, go and get takeout. Go and do whatever you can to support them in any way that you can, because they are really weathering a storm right now, and they could use all of our help and support to get through that. So go and take out from your local restaurants, your small businesses, and help them out.
Thank you.
All right, Jesse Van Berkel, and then we've got time for one more after that if someone else has a question.
Sure. I just wanted to ask about proposed cuts. Minority Leader Daudt, you had suggested that state government should look to cut back instead of raising taxes. Are there certain areas where you're exploring for potential cuts?
I think this is one where the Democrats, boogeyman, for lack of a better term, is always that we have to raise revenue or we have to make drastic cuts. In a economic recovery like this, I think we all know the disastrous effect that it would have if we raise taxes. Raising taxes on job creators who are struggling, raising taxes on Minnesota families who are struggling. No one would say to you that is the right solution to get out of this with a straight face. And if we don't want to make cuts, the answer is let's grow our way out of this. And there's a lot of other things that we can do to cut red tape and make it easier to conduct business in Minnesota, make it easier to grow our economy and grow our way out of this. Obviously, our fiscal situation changed pretty drastically from June or July when that interim forecast came out to today. Let's do the things necessary to make Minnesota the most business-friendly place so that we can actually grow our way out of this, so that we don't have to make cuts if that's not what we want to do. But if I were to, offered the choice of the only two options were to tax or to cut, I think we can find some efficiencies in state government. I think we can use technology to find efficiencies. There are things that we're spending an awful lot of money on right now that I think most Minnesotans would consider wasteful spending. One of them, just a small example, is that Northstar commuter rail. I mean, we've got the ridership on that is so low right now. And we're continuing to operate it, and we have mandates that the local governments continue to pay their share of it. We should idle that and not spend the money to keep that operating when it's really benefiting just a dozen riders or something is how low the ridership is. I mean, if we think that there aren't examples to cut in a $50 billion budget, we should cut up our election certificates. I'm sure Representative Garofalo, I can see him nodding as I'm speaking, has some ideas as well and would like to chime in. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Leader Daudt. And Jesse, there's a lot of examples of things out there, but obviously a lot of government programs were designed at a time in a pre-COVID world where we were spending money on congestion mitigation. We're in a post-COVID world now, and the reality is that people like working from home, and so we need to have the government transform the way the private sector is right now. I just will be honest, I think that maybe Majority Leader Winkler was talking about the old DFL majority. The new DFL majority is a lot smaller, and I'm not really sure that they're going to be having a lot of support from their members who won very close elections to advocate for tax increases. But likewise, in candor, I don't think you're going to see a lot of support out of the Senate majority for really big spending cuts. People see that the vaccine is coming. They know that the economy is ready to take off. And so I think you're going to see a lot of motivation that says, hey, let's have a responsible amount of budget reserves. Let's make sure that we get out and help our small businesses to jumpstart the economy. I just don't see any realistic forecast for making difficult, painful choices that are going to be unnecessary when we see the vaccine getting deployed as early as this month.
All right, we'll take one last question from Esme Murphy.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. Hey, just, Leader Daudt, can you are you 100% sure that the legislature will in fact pass some kind of relief package? And I realize not all of this is under your control, but are you really confident that something will be passed to help these small businesses?
Well, that's a difficult question, Esme, and you've been covering the legislature long enough to know that there is no certainty in anything. But I am 100% confident that we can. Whether we will or not remains to be seen whether the players are all at the table sincerely and want to get something done. I can assure you that my caucus, which I can speak for, is 100% committed to helping Minnesota families and helping Minnesota businesses. We do support extending the unemployment benefits. We think that's necessary. We think it's fiscally responsible. We also support helping Minnesota businesses, small business owners weather this storm, and we're absolutely committed to do that. We think our actions have really demonstrated that we intend to take the lead on that and really be a willing participant with anybody who's willing to talk to us. We hope the governor engages in a meaningful way, and frankly, we need to have all of the caucuses committed to getting something done. It is absolutely 100% possible. I can't guarantee it because I can only speak for my caucus, but my caucus is committed to getting it done, and I think that's an important step.
Our caucus does not, as Leader Daudt has articulated, we're in favor of small business assistance. We don't need anything attached to that to pass it. And so as other stakeholders are trying to attach other things to the small business assistance, I think that's going to determine the success of whether we're able to help small businesses or not. If we can keep it clean and just focused on small businesses, this can be done this week. If other people are going to put legislative wish lists and attach it to helping our small businesses, then those people are going to be responsible for causing problems.
Yeah, I would add on to that too. I said earlier that we aren't putting ultimatums on anything. We just want to get this done, and as long as nobody else puts ultimatums onto this, I think it absolutely can happen. Where the legislature gets into trouble is when we say, I'm not going to do this unless you do that, and these bills grow into huge monstrosities. Let's focus on who needs the help. And I frankly, we don't need to all bring our solutions to the table. What we need to do is bring our hearts and our commitment to the table to work together, and sit around the table and talk together about who actually needs the help, and then figure out together what the best approach to help them is. And yes, we did get a little head start in working on this because we knew how important it is, and we're really in tune with our constituents who have been contacting us about it. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work of Dave Baker and Barb Haley and others who I probably shouldn't have mentioned any names because I can't mention them all, but they have really taken a great leadership role in putting together a package to help Minnesota businesses, and they have frankly just been committed to working with all the other caucuses and talking to all of those impacted by this to come up with the right package to get something done that will really make a meaningful difference. So our hope is that we could get it done even this week, and that's our commitment. So we stand by ready.
All right, I think that'll do it. Kurt, do you want to wrap up? Any closing thoughts?
Not necessarily. I just want to thank everybody. Obviously, the fiscal situation has improved greatly, which is good news for everyone. It's especially good news for Minnesotans, and I think puts us in a much better situation. As we look out on the horizon, in the next biennium, there still are some concerns about some deficit spending, but the fact that our forecast has increased or improved so dramatically since June and July to now, I think bodes well for the future. But I think also how we approach things between now and the kind of full rollout of a vaccine is going to determine how many businesses are really able to weather the storm. I think many Minnesota businesses just barely weathered the first set of shutdowns that the governor ordered, and now weren't really anticipating a second round, and obviously here we are. So I want to thank them. I want to thank Minnesotans for all the work that they've been doing to get through this, and I want them to know that we're here listening and trying to do the best that we can to provide the help that we need. So certainly reach out to the governor's office and to Democrats in the House and let them know how important this is, and let's get it done quickly.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.